Hi there, Love here.
That's the voice of legendary Detroit broadcaster Ed Love, who for 60 years taught so many of us to love and appreciate the world of jazz. Ed was born into a family of music lovers in Parsons, Kansas. He studied the trumpet in junior college and thought for a time he would become a jazz musician. But after he graduated, he chose to attend the Pathfinder Broadcast School in Kansas City, graduating at the top of his class. His first job in broadcasting came in 1952 when Ed joined the United States Air Force and became an Armed Forces radio staffer in the Philippines during the Korean War. After returning home from the war, Love landed his first commercial job at KIND in Kansas, then went on to work at stations in West Virginia, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. In 1959, he contracted a serious case of pneumonia and moved in with relatives in Detroit to rest and recover. What he found in Detroit was a profusion of jazz clubs where the architects of the Motown sound performed and hung out, and with that, Ed decided to make Detroit his home. In his adopted city, Ed became a musical institution, and his deep knowledge of jazz introduced generations of listeners to the genre. For decades, Ed has worked tirelessly to promote Detroit and Detroit jazz talent. Ed Love's beautiful, smooth voice has been heard at R&B stalwart WJLB, classical music station WQRS, and WCHD, later renamed WJZZ. In 1983, he joined Detroit's NPR affiliate WDET-FM and began Destination Jazz, the Ed Love program, a weeknight broadcast that turned into one of the station's most listened to programs. For his many contributions to jazz music and for 60 years as a premier broadcaster in Detroit, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History recently honored Ed Love.
Good evening. My name is Neil Barclay, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Charles H. Wright Museum. Ed Love is a musical institution. His evening radio show, Destination Jazz, the Ed Love program, has been in place for nearly 40 years on radio station WDET-FM. A musician leader who ignored temporary trends to put listeners in touch with the roots and new manifestations of the jazz tradition, his deep, deliberate, yet companionable voice is familiar not only to Detroiters, but also to national audiences who heard his syndicated national public radio program, The Evolution of Jazz. WDET served as home base for The Evolution of Jazz, a syndicated program that ran for 6 years on NPR and was heard on 125 stations around the U.S. at its peak. While here in Detroit, Destination Jazz remained one of WDET's most listened to programs. Well into his 6th decade of radio, Love has been honored by the Motor City Music Foundation, the Southeast Michigan Jazz Association, the Congressional Black Caucus, and the National Broadcast Awards. Today, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the staff and members of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, I am honored to have the privilege of bestowing the Lifetime Achievement Award of the Wright to the incomparable Ed Love. Accepting the award on behalf of Ed are his daughters Angela and Anjanette Love and Mary Satina of WDET.
Good evening. On behalf of our dad, Ed Love, we graciously accept this well-deserved honor. Thank you.